welcome to the ThroBak Guitar Lounge Podcast, episode 62. On today's Guitargument, we delve into the intrigue. Is it better to own one great guitar or 5 okay guitars?
Do you put all of your guitar resources into one guitar, or do you spread that those same resources out over 5? That's the Guitargument today. I think there's arguments to both sides of this that are compelling.
That's why it makes it a good topic.
So that'll be the Guitargument.
That'll be the Guitargument coming up. Middle of the show.
I think that, you know, can you get everything you want out of one guitar? There's a lot of guitar players that do this. Jimmy Page, he's really known for one guitar, isn't he? He has other guitars.
True.
But is he ever going to be stuck if he doesn't have all of them? The answer is no.
He needs one, or at least a couple of.
You got Jeff Beck's signature Strat.
Yeah.
You've got Eric Clapton's. Why are these signature instruments? Because over years of playing, they've decided these represent and interpret better than any other choices for me what I have to say as a guitar player.
It's funny you say that with Eric Clapton, because I'm as big of a fan of Eric Clapton as anybody, but I think he sounds better when he plays like a Les Paul or a ES335.
That's the other side of it.
I like a Strat tone.
Are you disappointed when you hear him play Humbucker, PAF, SG, Les Paul licks on his Strat? And the answer is yeah, you kind of are, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what he likes, but would he be better served by 5 other guitars? Now, for him, there's not a compromise in terms of dollar amount that can be thrown at these things, obviously. But would he be better served by 5? I bet you could list 5 guitars right now that over the years he's associated with. Blackie, Strat,
right?
ES335,
Right.
SG, Les Paul, a humbucker Les Paul, and
well, the ES335. Do you say ES335?
ES335, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a 4th there. A 5th. A 5th. 5th would be the wild card. Maybe that does everything. Maybe it's his current Strat. I think if you're Eric Clapton, you need those 5 guitars to do it right.
But we're talking.
And is that the case with everybody?
But but we're not talking about Eric Clapton. We're talking about your average player. Is it better to invest in one or spread that money out?
All right, we'll talk about that later. But I think it's a good Guitargument.
Yeah, I do too.
So let's we look forward to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to go right to before the ThroBak Mailbox too. We are going to do pickups after the ThroBak Mailbox. We will do pickups of the week, and these will be vintage pickups and a vintage guitar. It's a Epiphone 1967 Epiphone Riviera, and we'll have that to look forward to after the ThroBak Mailbox. And this may be a fairly brief ThroBak Mailbox.
Why? You only have one?
I only have one thing. But I'll tell you. Oh, and by the way, for this episode, I will be doing the Rorschach riffs, Matthew.
Oh,
you have very, very, very.
Have I been retired?
No. I'm giving you a well-earned break.
Thank you very much.
You've been right at the top tier of Rorschach riffage, but there's only so much.
Although
should be expected of you from week to week, so I'm going to give you a little break.
We got some comments about my use of open G tuning, and I'm going to address that in
that's right
in my musing this week.
Okay, that's right, because last week's you were doing some Keith Richards open G. Open G? Is it open G?
Open G, and then with a capo. So
Okay, so the viewer comment. I thought this was a very nice viewer comment.
Okay,
it was this show is a bright, happy hour every week. Thanks for the smiles and information.
Well, we appreciate that.
Actually, that's very nice. And essentially, or is this our mission in doing this?
Kind of. Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. That and, we're obviously, talking about ThroBak products, but we're trying to be we're informative with, kind of a upbeat, well, I don't know, upbeat, just like pleasant. We're having a good time.
Yes.
Like it comes across. Okay.
It's like what we did earlier in the, I don't know what episode that was when we had our little fireside chats. You remember that episode?
Oh, that's right. We you had your dog here.
Yeah. Rosie.
That's right. You've brought out a bevy of characters. Well, I don't know. It's a bevy. How many is a bevy?
Bevy's more than. That's a good question. How much is a bevy? Probably more than 5 or 6.
You've had what was your roadie character?
Oh my God, Millsap. Was it Donnie?
Donnie Millsap. Is there more than one character? That's the.
We need to develop some more characters.
We've
bring them out when we need them.
You've evoked different emotions appropriate to the topic. Outrage. And Matthew has taken. Matthew, you may not know this, but Matthew has. You have taken classes in improv.
I've studied my craft,
and so he is applying those skills towards this show, which is a bright and happy hour every week, and I think we're doing well at that. Thank you, Matthew.
Although I didn't get the I did the whole program, but I didn't get the final graduation because I think I had some kind of form of. That was the COVID year, and I think I had some kind of. I was sick. I couldn't go.
Oh, you!
And they kept on delaying the darn final performance thing for me.
This is for your improv class.
Yeah, here in town, and the day they were finally going to have it, I felt bad about it, but I was like, I was not well, and that was before.
You should have just acted well.
I should have just acted well.
Yeah. Maybe you need another class. You could improv. You could improv your way into wellness. A great actor could do that, couldn't they?
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
Well, maybe you need another class.
Take one more.
Just need to act well.
Like John Lovitz. What did he say? He would say, I work in the theater.
Yeah.
You have to project to the back row.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we'll get on right now to the pickups of the week, Matthew. And again, the pickups of the week are mini humbuckers. These are mini humbuckers. We do not make mini humbuckers, Matthew. We actually we do not always show pickups that we make here, but we show pickups that we appreciate for their sound and their tone and kind of the guitars they're associated with. But the reason we don't make a humbucker is mini humbucker is because demand's not real high for them. They do have a following, and the following for these seems to be in neck pickups for Telecasters. David Mason, is that right? Mm-hmm. He's got a mini humbucker in his.
Dave Mason?
Is it Dave Mason? No, Brent Mason.
Brent Mason.
Not
Okay,
Dave Mason. Brent Mason.
Dave Mason's no longer with us.
Yeah. No, Brent Mason. I'm sorry. Sorry to both of them. So, so that's kind of like of the requests we get. That would be like probably top of the list. And then Firebird pickups too.
Yeah.
We don't offer them. We actually had some of the parts made. I had bobbins made. I have a box of little adjustable pole screws made. I have some base plates that I had made for kind of pickguard mounting.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And the thing is, there's not a huge demand for them. But the other is they are just an awful design and not very fun to make.
No, what makes them an awful design? I don't understand.
They're totally half baked. They're basically held together by the cover being soldered on. If you take the cover off, that just basically it's all bleh, spills out. It's literally held together by the cover.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's not a very good design at all. They sound good, but it's like, if you have, if we kind of have limited hours to produce what we produce, then do we want to kind of push the resources that go towards, resources in terms of time and money? Do you want to put the resources towards offering a wide variety of PAF style pickups and Telecaster and Strat style pickups? Or do you want to divert some of those resources in time and money to a mini humbucker? And the answer is no. That's not a knock against them as how they sound, but it is kind of like, the reality as to what
how
I got to approach this.
Are the mini humbuckers known to fail more regularly or more often than
I don't
another
think so.
design? No,
I don't think so. But kind of the last part of the equation with these as to why I didn't go any further with them is that the cover for a vintage style mini humbucker is a different size than many of the aftermarket guitars that use mini humbuckers. So people have not used the old spacing or cover size of a vintage one. I believe Seymour Duncan is the only aftermarket mini humbucker that uses the right cover size. So the problem becomes if you have a Gibson guitar, let's say you have a Gibson Firebird, that's a current production guitar, and you want to put some upgraded pickups in them. You now have to, you have to, either we have to stamp our own cover for it, or we have to use aftermarket covers that would require us sell them with a pickup mounting surround.
Okay.
Which is, it just seems like way too much trouble for for something that we don't have huge numbers of inquiries for. And it's not worth getting the cover stamped for the amount of requests we have for it. Anyway, let me get the guitar.
Okay.
Let's get your bass, and we will show the guitar and play these wonderful pickups that we don't make. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Matthew, you just pointed out that this is probably the first time that you've been using an Epiphone. We've both been using Epiphones. You can see them right there. I have an Epiphone, and you have an
I think that might be a show first for the for the podcast.
I've got an Epiphone, 1967 Epiphone Riviera here. I think I've shown this once before on the podcast as a sort of collector grade guitar. The story with this is a collector grade guitar is, since it's a 67, it has the narrower nut. For a time, that meant that these were about the same price as a historic reissue Gibson. Like if you were to get a historic reissue ES335, you could get one of these for the same price, more or less. That has changed a bit. Now the narrow nut the price has gone up in them. They still don't fetch what a wider nut guitar. And again, if you're not familiar with this, the nut size for a Gibson ES335 SG went from kind of your standard width to a narrow nut width in 1965. And that wider nut width is preferred and fetches a higher price than the narrow nut width.
Do you know why they went to narrow?
I have a suspicion. I think I read this. Chet Atkins became an endorser of Gibson.
Okay.
I don't know what the year was, but I'm pretty sure I read something that that at that time he preferred a narrow nut. I don't know, and I think it coincides with when he started becoming a Gibson endorser. I don't know if that's the reason for the nut getting narrow, but I suspect it might be. The funny part is that he went to this Gibson classical thing that has a wide classical nut, that nylon string guitar that he played kind of up until his death. I know that there's about that time when he became a Gibson endorser, I read an interview where he said he prefers a narrow nut. I don't know if that's the reason, but I kind of suspect that it coincides about with that time. So anyway, so that is one reason this is a kind of player grade guitar. Also, at some point, someone put a Nashville bridge on this and then put it back to the standard ABR1. So there's some post holes that have been, well filled and matched with the color, but, someone monkeyed with it a little bit. And you can't tell this, and you barely can tell it. But it's not scalloped, the fretboard, but I think someone in an effort to try to get more fret height out of it may have sort of sanded it a little bit. Either that or got played a lot and someone's kind of sanded the divots out. I don't know. So it's very subtle. It's not really a big deal, but that might kind of lower the value a little. It's
similar to a 330 ES 335. It's maple.
Yeah, it's a ES330. It is an ES335 except with mini humbuckers.
Okay. So mahogany neck,
laminate, top, back, and sides, center block. It does have this tailpiece, which they call a frequenzator tailpiece, I believe. They always had this, even kind of when they first came out. I think the theory with this is that the links of these are tuned in order to have a sort of sympathetic note that complements the resonance of the string, the frequencies of that individual string. I don't know if that's good. To me, it sounds a little bit like a gimmick, but that's the idea of it. That's why it was called a frequenzator tailpiece. The early ones actually said frequenzator right here, I believe. I think I got the term right.
I assumed looking at that with that bridge setup that it was a fully hollow body guitar, but it's not. There's a center block in it.
No. It's like after 60, these they had trapeze tailpiece on ES335s, I think, after like 65 also.
Did they?
Yeah. Anyway, and too, with the mini humbuckers, I've got a question for the viewers. If you have one of these, which way is your bridge pickup in terms of the pole screws? If you look at the photos of these in Gibson literature, they almost always have the pole screws facing towards the neck for the bridge pickup. With a PAF style humbucker, they would be adjustable pole screws would be facing the bridge. When I got this was actually flipped around, pole pieces towards the bridge. So, but I put it this way because I wanted to see if does it sound different. I haven't determined if I have a preference yet. I haven't changed the strings to flip that around and flipped it around yet. But I'm curious to hear if anybody else has one of these with this arrangement or the other. Mm-hmm. So I actually suspect the other arrangement might be better because I think you get maybe a little stronger signal out of the bar side under the cover here than you do out of the pole screws, which would make this thing sound fatter. And also, these kind of the 64 era of these use plain enamel wire, but this is going to use poly. The wire switches to poly too, just like it does for regular humbuckers later on. So these there is a bit of variation in the era of which you get them. And these, of course, have chrome covers. If you had a 64, and I have a 64 Wilshire with these, and the pickups do sound a little different. They're nickel covers and they're ground flatter they were prepped differently, more like a regular PAF in terms of how flat. These are still very flat, but in terms of kind of like how crisp the edges of the covers are. Okay, now I didn't mention this last episode, so I will mention it this. But as far as this, and I'll mention what the settings for the amp and were for last episode. Last episode, we played the KZ115 pickups through our 1979 Deluxe Reverb with these settings. Still using the same settings for this Pickups of the Week demonstration. And again, through a Nobels ODR1 with the bass trim pot. This is how it was set last week. For this week, it's same settings, but I have turned the bass trim pot all the way up for the bass. Now, in terms of these pickups, they are brighter. I think these were I think the Mini Humbuckers were kind of Gibson's attempt to make a noiseless, more single coil like pickup. They are brighter. They have more of a single coil ring to them in terms of clarity and brightness. That's the neck. Here's the middle. Here's the bridge. Some of the players that are associated with these, and I think very often people really love the neck pickup. Robin Ford has one of these, and I believe he only uses the neck pickup. Who did we say? Magic Sam. There's an era where he used one of these. And Otis Rush. Otis Rush famously used one of these for quite a while. And if you see clips of him using it, he has the top of the headstock cut off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like cut off right there above the logo so that it's like flat on top.
Do you think
I don't know
why.
Think
he chipped it or damaged it and he decided to just take it off?
I don't know. Maybe he thought it was kind of like weird looking the way it was. Or maybe he had a case that wouldn't fit it with it. Because this does really kind of stick out quite a bit.
There might have been just a simple practical thing, probably.
Yeah.
Didn't fit the case, maybe.
I don't know. Can you think of any curving players that use these things? I can't.
Doesn't one of the Gallagher, does Noel Gallagher play one?
Does he have a signature one, but it has full-size humbuckers in it?
Yeah.
I think you might be right about that.
Maybe he's got a vintage thing too, but I think it was the production one.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's play something. Can we play this, Matthew?
Sure.
Okay. All right, we'll play that. And again, Deluxe Reverb, Nobels ODR1. And let's play that. And two, I guess I'll let you know, I have the volume up full on the guitar. I do have the bridge pickup tone on 8, which is what I usually do with regular humbuckers. I do have the tone on 10 for the neck, just to get a little brighter. With this, 10 seems to make it a balance a little better with this guitar. All right. You ready? Mm-hmm. That's a tricky one to play there, though. No. That's my excuse.
Sounds good.
Okay. Let's see. Is that all there is to say about this?
What's the weight of the guitar?
This is kind of strange. It's in the 7-pound. It's a light guitar.
Okay.
But the body seems heavy when you pick it up. I think a lot of weight's in the body.
In the mass.
I think it's about 7.5 pounds, which is not too bad.
No.
But it kind of like I have other 335s from this era that feel that are about the same weight, maybe a little heavier, and for some weird reason they feel lighter than this, even though they're a little heavier or about the same weight. It doesn't, when you play it, it doesn't feel overly heavy, but it feels solid.
The mass is concentrated in the middle area.
One other thing I did have to do is I think when I got this, it had 2 knobs that were original, 2 that weren't. So I had to find 2 original knobs. And I think the 2 volume pots had been changed. So that's another sort of player grade detail there. Okay. We're going to go on to, let's put the guitars away. Mm-hmm. And we will go on to the Guitargument, Matthew.
Okay.
The Guitargument is going to be...
Is it better to own 5 okay or average guitars or 1 really good guitar?
One like put all of your eggs in that one guitar basket. Go for broke, well, because you don't want to be broke, but we'll have one primo or as close to a primo as you can get guitar or
a variety.
Okay,
lesser guitars.
We'll be right back with that. Okay, Matthew, we are back with the Guitargument. And again, what is a Guitargument? 1, well, I guess I'm telling it.
Go ahead.
1 versus 5?
Yeah.
We're using that number sort of as kind of a basis for the concept of can you get all the variety you need out of 1? Or do you need really many to get the full range? And is it a trade-off? Is it a trade-off having the 1 primo, or is it a trade-off having the 5 sort of less desirable, or maybe not, I shouldn't say less desirable, less expensive? What's the better setup? You could be like, I'm going to have 5 primo guitars, and I could have 25 average, okay, good. Or you could have 20 primo guitars, and you could have, I don't know, you know where I'm going with this.
Just keep buying more
and
and more
guitars. I'm not the only one that has faced this. This is the reality one must address with a hobby or a profession. But I mean, most of your viewers, this is a fun hobby that has this collector aspect to it, where if you like collecting, more is in theory better, right? Mm-hmm. But then at some point, it's like, what do I do with all these? So do you start from the beginning with 1? Let's just boil it all down to its sort of core constituents. Fewer versus many. So 1 versus 5. We kind of figure that's kind of the base. Mm-hmm. Maybe? Okay. Which side do you want to take of this on this Guitargument, Matthew? We got
I think
5 minutes.
You should have the choice today.
I'll say the 5.
Okay.
You do the 1.
All right.
Okay. 5 minutes right now.
Am I going first? Or do you want to go first? You go
I'll
first.
go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. 5. A 5, given your ability to, do this without, if you're to do your guitar shopping without sort of creating a problem financially for yourself, and or with your wife or a partner, and you got a place to put them. I think 5 is your sort of sweet spot for a goal of sort of a core of guitars. Now, of course, you could put all of those resources, all the money that you put into those 5 guitars into one guitar. But what you get with the 5 guitars is, and I've thought about what these guitars would be. It would be a Stratocaster. Mm-hmm. It would be a Telecaster. It would be a Les Paul and a 335. And the 5th guitar, it would be kind of a wild card. You could get maybe something like that Epiphone Riviera. You could get a Humbucker single coil Telecaster. You could get a P90 Les Paul. You could get a Les Paul Special. You could get a Humbucker single coil Strat. It leaves you, so you got the 4 classic choices. You got a 5th classic choice or sort of like modern variation on the theme. With all of those, you can get anything you want tonally. Pretty much. Like maybe you have a sort of a country gentleman, Chet Atkins or whatever, or your Gretsch, right? Let's say you want that. That's your 5th sort of wild card guitar, possibly that. So with all of these, you have the quality. You can get extremely good quality with a very inexpensive guitar nowadays. So let's just talk about average good quality guitars. What does that quality come down to? Nowadays it's not so much the guitar. It's about setup. It's about and setup involves fret dressing, leveling and dressing. All of these are things that you can either learn to do yourself or do incrementally over time. And you can also turn an average guitar into a great guitar with setup and to make it play at its best, and also pickup changes, and which we encourage here. What better way to get the full variety of all the electric guitar has to offer than to have 5 guitars with, I will say, unlimited potential, and with setup, pickups, and get the full variety, rather than have one showcase piece that, although wonderful, will limit your tonal options.
Okay, I'm going to jump in before you take up the full 5 minutes, John. I think you should go for one guitar. I think you should put your investment into one good, very good, solid guitar. You won't have to worry about things like intonation problems or fretwork problems. All that's going to be taken care of, and what you're going to do is you say like a Collings I-35 LC or something like that, and it's going to come with ThroBak pickups, so I don't have to get into trouble with you.
I'm having a hard time arguing about that.
But if I think sometimes what happens with guitars is that some of them say in their case too much, and then you go through phases. You'll play this one for this period of time, and then you'll pull another one out. But
wouldn't you say this is how you keep the hobby of guitar playing fresh? You go through phases of playing, and those phases include skill, but also the guitar that inspires you because of its variety of tones and the different tones that it can present. We're not quite to the cool down. We got 15 seconds to go, but I'll stick with the theme of just having that one guitar and focusing your skill and your ability through that one instrument. And if that buzzer goes off, then it's going to be. Oh, wait a minute! I can say, yeah, you paint a good picture, because the problem with guitar always is that, like we did last week, you want to do alternate tunings, and all of a sudden you've got the guitar set up, and then now I want to put heavier gauge strings on it and detune it and have open gauge, or I want to play slide on something. So now I need to have higher action or something. So one guitar is What even if you're just a one guitar guy, like I only like a Les Paul, so I'm going to get the best danged Les Paul I can afford.
Well, here's the problem with the Les Paul too. Like right on the wall there, you've got one with some nice humbuckers, and you've got one with some very nice P90s. So then,
well, that's what I was going to say. Let's just say I'm the guy that just likes a P90 Les Paul, or I'm just the guy that likes a PAF style humbucker equipped Les Paul. The point with that is that you still can get all sorts of nuanced variation within that. I mean, this is why we have all these models of pickups. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of different flavors within that. So you're shortchanging yourself, potentially, even if you're that narrow in what you like, if you're limiting yourself to one guitar. Don't you think? There's another argument I've mentioned. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, the true thing that you find is that you will play a different guitar differently, and that you'll approach it differently, and your choices are going to be different just by the very nature of the instrument. Like a Telecaster without a belly cut or an arm carve forces your hand to sit on the guitar.
Yeah.
Differently than from a Stratocaster.
It does affect your playing. It even affects your playing if you've got two different Les Pauls or two different ES335s that have different necks.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Even a different weight, because it affects the attack of the guitar. The neck affects the feel and how you play. So you're kind of locking yourself out of what that variety brings to you as a player if you're limiting yourself to one guitar. Now, the argument for one guitar would be that, let's say this could be an investment argument. If you're getting, let's say you get a vintage, your choice is 5 non-vintage guitars. Let's say you find 5 used, very good guitars, but none of them falls in the vintage category, or something that has a rarity or scarcity that would give it a premium price in the long term. And then you're thinking like, well, I'll get the one premium price guitar that already has a track record, a vintage guitar, let's say, of holding its value and being desirable. Well, in terms of playability, there is absolutely no guarantee that you're going to get something that plays as well as a current production guitar, and you may actually have problems that are associated with vintage guitar, like intonation, sort of oddities within the model that kind of appear randomly, and so there's more potential for trade-off with that single guitar theme. And but maybe you do find the perfect guitar that's the primo guitar. You still are locking yourself out of that variety.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, I'm sure our viewers probably have. There probably isn't one person that has one guitar unless they just started playing recently.
Yeah,
I think that they probably all have multiple guitars. It just seems to. Even when you try to, that's what I find. It's funny about it. Even when you decide, and I have this tendency more than you do. I don't think I'll tend to let guitars go quicker, but they just I'll suddenly appear again.
Yeah,
you start going like I didn't have a Strat for a while, and I said I really need a Strat. You really need to have like that neck position pickup. In a Strat is a must. Sort of like. You have to have it. You can't get that tone from a Telecaster, and you can't get that.
Even if you were going to kind of go the primo route with a newer guitar, like a custom shop guitar, mm-hmm. just using sort of a custom shop Les Paul as a example, I find that they're very nice, but I still have to do quite a bit of setup work to both the nut and the bridge. And the guitar I played last week, which is on the wall there, which is a 2025 R7 historic reissue. It's really nice. I changed the pickups, obviously, but the thing, it doesn't intonate perfectly. It intonates pretty close, but it was, when I was intonating it, I realized I was not getting it close enough, and there was enough play in the bridge that it had shifted forward. So I had to, it's far from, I had to shift the bridge back kind of on the posts. And so it's far from perfect, even though it's a primo guitar.
So
that's my point.
Is that simply just a manufacturing glitch?
I don't think it's so much a glitch. I guess you could kind of consider it a glitch. I think it's just kind of a feature of that style bridge, whether or not it's a vintage one or a new one. Because I have vintage ABR1 equipped guitars that do not intonate well. I have an Epiphone Wilshire. It's a really nice guitar, but I have every one of the saddles flipped around so that the edges, the flat edge is right against the back of the bridge, so I can get it as close as possible to good intonation, and it's still not terribly well intonated. I was just thinking, I had an experience at Guitar Center a couple of weeks ago. I was in there looking at, and I was quickly kind of going through some of their used bass guitars or just seeing what they had, and then some younger guys came in, maybe in their early 20s, and they started asking me questions about what kind of guitar should I get. And then I'd overheard them a little bit, and I always like listening to conversations at Guitar Center. But I quickly said, "Well, I don't work here, but..." Oh, you gave them advice as to what what you would get.
Well, I kept it very open, but I guess probably the real, I kind of said, "Well, what do you like listening to? What artists do you like?" And this person said, "Well, I like a variety of artists." And I said, "Okay." And then I kind of gave them my dilemma. I said, "Well, if I had only one guitar, what guitar would I?" And I said, "I'd probably go with the Telecaster. I think I can get the most out of that one guitar." But I said, that may not be the right answer for you.
Yeah.
Probably the real answer, the true answer would be, well, you're going to start here. You're probably going to get multiple instruments. So,
yeah, I do think it's a good strategy. Start with a guitar that you would keep.
Yeah.
Even if you got more.
Yeah.
Telecaster is a great candidate for that. You're getting sort of a tried and true popular design, but it's not the most complicated and therefore most expensive when you get a good one. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a strategy too that really does, if you play a lot, if you have 5 guitars and you're playing all of them, you really are spreading the fret wear over.
That's true.
Many of them. So you're kind of spreading out the sort of maintenance cost of a guitar. You're not concentrating it into one guitar, and there is a value to that. It'll take much longer to wear the frets down over 5 guitars than it is over one, and also too, you're just going to put way more wear on one guitar than you would over 5, and there is another factor. It kind of, when you get, like, I'm kind of facing this. I can't really get more guitars. I mean, there's nowhere, the space becomes a factor for everybody at some point with this. It's got to. So then is the strategy, the strategy seems to be, and I think there's a good argument for it, you condense those 5, let's say it's 5, into a primo guitar, mm-hmm. so that you can have sort of like a different level of enjoyment with a more highly sought after instrument, and also at the same time reduce the amount of real estate they take up in your home.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
and to the kind of the concentrating of that into more collectible pieces does probably mean that your guitars are hold their value a little bit more over time, But then I think at the top tier of that, you actually hit a point of diminishing returns. You have a guitar that in theory is crazy expensive, but you've now reduced the market of available buyers radically. You think?
In what way?
Let's just say if you have a Les Paul Burst, you've got a wonderful guitar that's in theory highly desirable, but let's say you have a $250,000 guitar
that you paid $250 for.
Or let's just say it's now worth $250,000
on paper,
and whether or not you've paid for it or not. How easy it is to find the buyer, and then when you find the buyer, how much are you paying someone else in commission? So you've got a sort of whole different set of challenges. I guess maybe they're not problems, but challenges that you have to deal with once you've gotten into that category.
It reminds me of the saying, "What are the two happiest days in the
for a boat?
For a boat owner, the day you buy the boat, the day you sell the boat."
Yeah, I've heard that one.
It's true. If you had a $250,000 guitar, you would be like,
I think I heard some other quote but something like that. Buying a boat was like taking a shower with dollar bills. That it was all going down the drain.
It's an expensive hobby. I mean, especially if it's you've got these super duper. Speaking of which, I think this
everybody that I know that has had a boat has sold it.
No, are we talking like a diesel yacht? Or are we talking like a sailboat? Both. Yeah.
Actually, I know a guy that had a large, sort of Lake Michigan fishing boat, kind of personal yacht fishing boat, with a little sort of like area up top with the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And he sold that. And then it's like it fills and then someone who bought a used speedboat, and then they sold that. Like they even got it with the, in the ideal circumstances used, but it's like it fulfills some need for a period of time, and then after that, it's like, what do I have this for?
Well, the speaking of sailing and what have you, the Mackinac races will start this weekend. I don't know which is the Bayview race or the Chicago race, but one of them starts Saturday. But some of those boats, because there's different classes, but some of those boats are those like ultra high-end graphite boats that are, big, huge, beautiful boats. But I haven't a clue what those things run, but but the whole crew, you have to have a professional crew that are on those things that know what they're doing. Those people aren't weekend sailors. One other final question, though, about the guitar. Did you see what Gibson came out with their Les Paul Custom?
Oh, they came out with a long scale. Is it a 25.5-inch scale?
Yeah.
So is this their strategy to compete with Fender? Like, so
have they ever done that before? Have you ever seen that before?
I don't know that they have.
Way back when, or anything?
I think they might have. The only scale variations I'm aware of, and I could be wrong about this, is something like an L5 a longer scale? I know that a Birdland is a little shorter scale than 24 3/4. An Epiphone Texan has a longer scale neck.
Does it?
Yeah, and actually it sounds better than a J45. It's a J45. Like I have an Epiphone. I have sort of the narrow neck, the guitars I've collected over the years, narrow neck J45. And then I bought, so that's, 65 to 68. And narrow neck, I bought an Epiphone Riviera when I realized that they had, there wasn't just a J45 or J50, and that it's different in that it has a longer scale neck, and it really does sound better, bigger and more balanced with a longer scale neck. So, I think maybe some of the jazz guitars, like the Super 400, have a longer scale neck. I don't know if I'm right about that. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've ever done it with a Les Paul. But obviously, it seemed to me when I saw that press release that that's what they were trying to do. Is they were trying to take that as an opportunity to try to get business from people that might have been fans of Fender because of the longer scale.
Oh.
And they're trying to piggyback on that.
I
don't know that would really work.
With Fender's recent...
yeah. I mean, doesn't the timing seem suspicious?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's fun. They're holding out. They don't want to buy a Fender, but maybe they'll try a Gibson.
It'll sound different. Oh, and two, with your argument of the... with your argument of the Collings, that actually is a very good argument. The reason I say that is not only that you can get them with ThroBak pickups, but you're going to get a perfect playing guitar. This is a distinction between, I think, let's say a custom shop Gibson and something like a smaller builder, a boutique builder. I think it's highly likely you're going to get a perfectly playing guitar from a boutique builder. But the Gibson Custom Shop, really nice. But and I bought several of these recently. The nut and bridge, not correct. And I've had one guitar, and I think I have another one in there that I haven't taken the pickups out of yet. But one guitar where the covers were so flared on the Les Paul that I could not get them out of the guitar without wiggling them out over like 5 minutes. And if the other guitar I have that is like this, I'm going to film it just because I'm sure other people are going to have this experience at some point and possibly panic. Because I was like, what the heck is going on here? But you're not going to get that with the Collings.
No.
Yeah. And so my point with that is that even with a kind of the primo guitar, you still may be in for some level of adjustment, and that you wouldn't, it's not going to. You're not. You very well might not get a perfect guitar, especially from a larger manufacturer. Is my feeling. That doesn't mean I think they're a bad value, to tell the truth, for the Les Paul. I will say that the exception to this is that my experience with this has been that the Heritage Custom Cores play perfectly. I bought 2 of those, and we're going to put our sort of pickups we're working on now specifically for magnet swap videos. But both of those guitars, frets perfect, nut and bridge perfect, plays like a dream. And
those are nice guitars. I get to see those out again.
Well, I mean, it was clear to me that the ones that I got, they paid attention to the details, those details that Gibson had not spent enough time on. And it doesn't mean that the Gibson guitar was like ruined, but it was that I knew enough to fix it. Mm-hmm. If you bought it thinking it was perfect and didn't know that these were the things that were kind of left undone, you either wouldn't realize that you didn't have a guitar playing to its full potential, or you would be disappointed that you had a guitar that wasn't playing to its full potential, and you would have to pay someone to do it. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, okay. that's that. I think we talked about that. I think we've talked about that enough, and we will go on to Rorschach riffs, Matthew.
I'm looking forward to figuring out what you're going to play.
And I will do the Rorschach riffs this week, and I will do it with that wonderful 1967 Epiphone Riviera, which I will get here in just a second. Hold on, let me take a little drink here.
Give us a drum roll.
I'll give you a drum roll here, and we'll just do that right now.
Hey now.
Okay, right there, back with the guitar. Now, so we mentioned Magic Sam, and we mentioned Otis Rush as being people that played this guitar, this style of guitar, Epiphone Rivieras at some point. What do they? These are also maybe Otis Rush. Well, these are also Chicago blues associated players. So for the Rorschach riffs, I will be doing Chicago themed riffs.
Okay. So that's a hint.
Chicago blues themed riffs.
Okay.
And again, this is 4 riffs. One of these, I think players of or viewers of the show will have heard us play, but I'll do it anyway. So let's see here. I got my list here. The problem is with this is you don't get to practice, do you?
No. That's
that's kind of that's what's a little rattling about it.
You have to. It has to be playing in your head correctly.
Okay, here's the first one.
Okay.
Hey, that's the first one.
Okay. That's the problem. Like I know the song, but I know the artist, but it's like okay, I'll okay.
Okay. Here's the next one. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, here's the next one. Wait, no.
Okay.
Now that's the one people will have heard us play.
Okay.
Here on the show for pickup demonstrations.
I think I've even played on that one.
Yes. That's the third one. Okay. Matthew, this is the
wild card, okay.
The wild card. Now this one I may mess up on here. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
Now, this is not strictly a guitar riff. You can play it on guitar.
Okay.
But this definitely is a Chicago artist that's very well known.
That is a wild card.
Imagine horns. These are horns playing this. And it's not. If I say horns in Chicago, you're going to think Chicago.
But it's not that.
It's not Chicago, the band. But this was a hit by a famous Chicago area, written by a famous Chicago area songwriting phenom.
Would I know that phenom?
Yes, many famous songs this man has either written or co-written.
Is still alive?
Still alive. Sometimes you'll see him walking Nam. Okay, so should we go through these one more time?
Yeah, go through
for the
one
rest
more time,
of the
and
audience?
I'll get back to number 4.
First one. That's the first one.
Oh, I think I've got.
Okay, second one. Third one.
Okay.
Fifth one.
Darn.
How many of those you got so far, Matthew?
The first one, I'm not.
It's the first one.
I think I've got the
Matthew,
artist.
We've played this.
I know, but
We played this in our band.
I know, but it's the title of that I'm getting. I think I'm going to get confused. Getting confused with somebody. Anyway, the last one. Sorry, I hit your guitar there.
Right.
The last one. I don't think I'm going to get that, but it sounds darn familiar. I think when you. Yeah, I can't figure that darn thing out.
Imagine horns.
But not Chicago.
Okay, you want a hint?
Yeah.
No, it's not the band Chicago.
Right. That's what I thought. Immediately, I thought, it's the band Chicago.
But
you said horns.
The title of the song is synonymous with transportation. And it's not the Chicago Transit Authority. Okay. Okay. So I'll go through them one more time here.
Okay. Then we have to. I know the artist, but I'm not convinced that I've got the title right.
That's two there.
I know the artist too, but again, the title is that one I got, and then the last one where I'm
Okay, do you want? Should I expand upon any of these? Okay, the first one. Let's see. But it's hard to play without a band.
Yeah, I know, isn't it? Okay.
All right. Do we want more hints?
No,
I really want you to get these. The other hint would be harmonica player.
Oh, I know the artist.
Oh, you know the okay. All
it's
right.
just the title. I'm not convinced.
All right. Okay. Give me your
the first
your rundown here. Of
the first one is a Junior Wells song.
Yes.
And we do two different Junior Wells. The first one that came to mind is it Snatch It Back?
That's.
Yeah. This one is. That's why I wasn't.
Like
I was pretty good. It's not Snatch It Back. What? This is the one. This is the one you're actually playing, right?
No, that's Snatch It Back.
Okay, don't play Snatch.
You both have to play similar, like.
I can't remember the name of the darn song.
Okay, second one. Well, okay, so I'll tell you. It's messing with the kid.
Okay.
Junior Wells.
Buddy guy playing guitar. I shouldn't. That's terrible. I didn't know it. Okay, the second one, I believe it's Muddy Waters.
Yes.
Is it? It says I'm a man.
Hoochie Coochie Man.
Hoochie Coochie Man. But isn't that the same song or no?
I guess so.
Yeah.
But it's called Hoochie Coochie. Well, I'm a man.
That's a different song.
That's Bo Diddley, isn't it?
That's what I was thinking. I'm thinking Hoochie Coochie Man, but I couldn't think of it. The third one is Paul Butterfield Blues Band, Born in Chicago.
Yes.
The first record. And then the fourth one, when you tell me, I'm going to say, yeah, I know it, but now I can't think.
I don't know if I'm playing that right. Vehicle, Ides of March.
Oh.
Jim Peterick.
I was thinking of Jim Peterick. I was going to say, I haven't seen him at NAMM. Have you seen him at NAMM?
I think I walked by him once with him And he had the kind of purple or something stripe in his hair or something.
I think that's his look. I don't think it.
Yeah, I think.
I was thinking of Jim Peterick, and then I got thrown off by Chicago, and then I was trying to think who else. But I forgot about his. That's a very early song for him, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I think I think I saw an interview with him. He started out writing jingles for Chicago advertising,
really,
radio advertising.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's interesting. So he's
name all the songs that he's associated with. He's associated with
Eye of the
Hold
Tiger.
On, Eye of the Tiger, Hold On Loosely.
Okay, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's one of those people that you like. There's way more songs than you would have expected.
The biggest kick I got out of it was watching one of those Toy Story movies with my kids. I think it was the third one, and they just play like the one beat from the Eye of the Tiger. They just go dan, and everybody knows what it is, and that's all they played.
Yeah,
and I thought, oh, he just got a nice payday.
Yeah, one of the other people that's got that I think of that's like this, where you're like, oh my gosh, he wrote that. Is who's the guy? He wrote Southern Nights.
Alan Toussaint.
Yeah. Incredible number of songs that you know that he wrote that are done by other artists.
You want to hear my Alan Toussaint story?
Sure.
So he headlined at the Oakville, Ontario Jazz Festival, and I can't remember the year, but Bridget was quite small, to my youngest, but she was taking piano lessons. And unfortunately, I got to know I knew he was important because all these people would talk, but I didn't know a lot of his music. And I just thought, well, I was visiting my in-laws. Oakville's a short drive away, only a few miles. So I thought, we should just go. So I brought my two girls, and we went to see him perform. And then there was a little CD store, a little record store. You could buy his record, and then there was a little lineup, and you could get him to sign it. And he gave us quite a bit of time, and I got him to sign it for Bridget, so she's taking piano lessons. And she was about 7 or 8, and he had a little sort of chat with her. But he was a great performer, and kind of
Yeah, one of the songs that I guess I knew this but didn't really know it is that he wrote There's a Certain Girl that we were trying to play.
Right, the song is certain.
Yeah, there's that I associate with Yardbirds.
Right.
He wrote that.
He wrote that?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure because we found this certain girl I've been in love with for a long time. I think he wrote that for R&B act that did it sometime in the early 60s or the 50s.
Was it
the Yardbirds redid it.
Was he always?
That's who I always associated with is Yardbirds.
Yardbirds, but it's one of those songs.
Yeah.
Was he always based in New Orleans? He was a New Orleans artist, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know if my mother had the record or I bought the record, but when I saw him, he had the record that I think I bought for him to sign was was it called The Bright Mississippi? But this is a very good record. Kind of a moody kind of version of that song on it.
Okay, Matthew, have we should go on to your musings.
My musings.
Do you have
okay.
musings? Let me change the shot here and we'll go on to your musical musings. I think we've exhausted the riffing.
That. So the musing this week. Last week I did a little ode to Keith Richards in open G tuning.
Yeah, and I said, do you suppose he really came up with open G tuning because it was just easier to play for him when he was maybe not fully didn't have his full mental faculties?
And then I thought, wait a minute.
Maybe chemically induced.
I initially thought it was Graham Parsons who showed him the open tuning. I thought I read that somewhere, but I looked into it a little bit, and all of the people point to Ry Cooder. Graham Parsons had an influence on him writing some of those sort of country-inspired, like Dead Flowers and some of the other stuff. But all the people pointed to Ry Cooder working on the soundtrack for Performance, and coming into the studio and using this open G tuning, and then Richards was kind of like, how do you do that? Like, what are you doing? So Richards got it from Cooder and then kind of made it his own by famously removing the low E. And then I didn't realize too that Macabre Telecaster with the brass, it's a Schecter saddle. That was a 27th birthday gift from Eric Clapton.
Oh, really? I had no clue. I didn't know that.
And then the humbucker went in the neck in the early 70s. And then it says a lot, lap steel went in the bridge position, which would correspond to what you were saying about it's the 43 gauge wire and the A3 Alnico magnets in it. But Richard kind of like just created this whole thing that he could literally do, one finger across the frets and you get a new chord, and then he can just, a couple of pull-offs and hammer-ons, and you got a whole new palette to work with. So he kind of made it his own, but he wasn't the originator of it. But I didn't realize that until the 90s. There was a cover story on a guitar player, and I didn't realize he had no low E string on that guitar. There is no low E, so doesn't have to worry about it.
Okay, Matthew, is this it for the musings?
Let me see.
Did you hear the band? There's a band next door I
think I did hear.
That's starting to play drums too. I don't know if
they're picking it up.
I don't know if our viewers have heard that. We're in a building with many noisemakers.
Not just us.
Not just us.
We make enough noise sometimes.
There's the guy above us.
Guy
has got
down the hall.
That's right. We've got a guy above us that does sort of like he's got multiple bands. And they rehearse up there sometimes.
And does like
guy down the hall's a
reviews.
DJ now.
DJ for weddings.
And he has a DJ school kind of classes. And then there's a church that shares a wall with us that has this big thunderous band too.
So
that's kind of like attached to this old furniture building we're in. Well, it's not our building, but it's downtown here. Okay. That's it.
Until next time.
That's it. We'll
thanks for watching.
Finish up the outro here, and we'll see what episode 63 brings. I was trying to play a guitar every week that is corresponds to the year. I don't have a 63 or a 62. Maybe I didn't have a 61 last week.
Maybe we can get a loaner.
I do have a 64 though.
You have a 64 covered?
If it's 64 Welshire and Crestwood, and I think that's it. No, I've got a 64 SG.
It's ready to go.
I got all those. Maybe we'll do more than one. I don't know.
What about your 63 Stratocaster set?
Oh, they could do that. I didn't think about that. Yes, there you go. Problem solved.
There you go.
It's in that guitar right there. That red one behind your head.
Oh, cool. It's ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. See you next week for episode 63. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening.